Hey Emma,
Yes, Madeline.
what do you call it if you start out the evening playing our first game and then transition into playing our second game?
I don't know. What do you call it?
Nights into taking pictures of fascist regimes. Hello and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
It rhymes with dreams.
I see. I thought you were going for, red sky for, sunrise or something.
Oh, that's interesting. That's more advanced than my joke crafting has reached. Well, thanks for tuning in to the show. I'm your not quite on the level of making jokes about skies host, Madelyn.
I am your other host, Emma.
And this week, as you almost certainly did not, well, maybe you did pick up from the joke, I don't know. We're going to be talking about Nights into Dreams and Umurangi Generation. So, two really similar games.
Yeah.
Basically the same game.
You know, they're both colorful.
Well, thanks for listening, folks. Okay, so let's jump in. Nights into Dreams is a 1996 action. It's not really a platformer because you fly, but it feels like a platformer in a lot of ways. Game from Sega's famous Sonic team for the Sega Saturn. I'm not sure we've ever talked about a Saturn game on the show before.
I feel like we've talked about the Saturn.
We've talked about the Saturn. The Saturn definitely came up in, the Consoles Generations one, the side quest. And I guess I'm sure assuming there were games that were cross-platform for Sega Saturn and, PlayStation, maybe we've talked about some games like that, but I'm not sure if we've ever talked about truly a Saturn exclusive before.
I'm sure we've talked about some that have been on Sega platforms, but maybe it was the Dreamcast or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Saturn games are rare on Talk This, I guess is the point that I'm trying to make. Have we talked about Sonic? If we haven't, we're probably overdue to talk about Sonic.
I don't know. I'll have to go check.
I don't remember it.
I still haven't made my list of games that we've talked about yet, so that'll be something to look for when I do that.
Should really take an hour, both of us, and just do that one of these days. Anyway, Nights into Dreams. From the Sonic team, but not a game about Sonic the Hedgehog. It really is, the dev team here, though, is, the creators of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
But it's not about Sonic, unless you're playing the Sonic level that no longer exists.
Yes. They started conceptualizing it after Sonic 2, or Sonic and Knuckles, I think it's called in the US. No, those are two different games. It started after Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and then development started after Sonic and Knuckles in 1994. I saw that producer Yuji Naka had to fly back and forth between Japan and America a lot for Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And apparently he was like, Flight. That's a good game. And that's where the initial concept for Nights into Dreams came from.
You know, the flight back and forth is long.
It is long.
Yeah. And probably eventually I too would be like, what if some loop-de-loops and dreams?
Wouldn't it be more fun if this plane did some loop-de-loops on the way there?
It would not be more fun, to be clear.
It wouldn't. It would not be fun.
But Nights into Dreams is not about airplanes. It is instead sort of about teens Elliot Edwards and Clarice Sinclair, which, oof. Clarice Sinclair? Come on, parents. Elliot Edwards has 2 first names. That's tough enough
catchy,
as it is.
you know, Clara Sinclair. You'll remember it. You know, when people announce her on the stage, it'll stick.
They should have at least gone all the way and done like Claire-ness Sinclair. So it's like kind of a palindrome. I recognize that palindrome would have to be truly like Riacle-ness.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's not even close to a palindrome.
I don't mean a literal palindrome. I mean like we can reflect the middle and then it's Claire's on either side.
Okay.
Claire-ness Sinclair. I don't know why the Sega team didn't call me age 1 for that insight, either. But I could have helped. Anyway, Elliot and Clarice are like high school students, and they've both had bad high school days. Elliot has gotten his butt.
Geez, they're high school students?
Oh, I thought that. Maybe they're younger than that.
I don't know. They look like baby children. So that's why I was saying, geez, they're teenagers. That's all.
They're definitely described as teens throughout various things. So maybe they're middle schoolers, but they're, you know.
I just mean looking at them, they look like they're like 10.
Well, children look older these days.
Okay, yes, in these days of 1996.
Yeah, in 1996, 17-year-olds looked about 8. Anyway, they're having bad teenage days. Regardless of whether they are 13-year-olds or 19-year-olds, who can say? Elliot has gotten his butt handed to him on the basketball court by some bad basketball dudes. And Clarice wanted to try out for something where she had to sing, but then she got stage fright and couldn't do it. And so then in like the most realistic part of this game, they go to bed that evening and they both have nightmares about their terrible days. And they will probably continue to have those exact nightmares for the rest of their lives.
Except that they, you know, meet a creature named Knights who enlists them in defeating a bad guy who steals ideas. This game has peak 90s video game naming. So Clarice Sinclair, the evil guy's name is Wise Man. Mm-hmm. With a Z, not with an S, but Wise Man, the evil ruler. Like the other Knights' like counterpart that's evil is like Real. And yeah, ideas are these like parts of your personality that can apparently be stolen in Nightopia. All of this is very light, by the way, because there's no voice acting in Knights. And not even, like, really any text or anything. So yeah, I mean, if they remade Nights into Dreams today, you know it would be dark and gritty. Well, there's an HD port for, I mean, I don't know if it's on current systems. It's not. By which I mean PS3. Yeah. I mean, it's on PC, also. I mean, fair enough. I guess that counts as a current system. I guess I meant if they were to reboot Nights into Dreams, it would be dark and gritty. Well, you know, Balan Wonderworld is certainly... Wonderland, whatever it's called. Balan Wonderland is certainly inspired by Nights, and it is, 1, not dark and gritty, 2, I can't remember if it's Wonderworld or Wonderland, so that tells you about how well it did. Fair enough. That's from Yuji Naka, who was the producer on Nights. He did directing, producing, everything on Balan Wonderland. So, yeah, that's pretty much a Nights remake. Did not do very well. Fair enough. That doesn't surprise me. Nights does seem kind of trapped in the 90s in a lot of ways. I mean, you know, if they actually remade it, it would be just, I don't know, people don't really like modern Sonic games, is my impression, so Emma is not very optimistic about... I was gonna say, I was exaggerating the Balan Wonderland, because it is an actual platformer, but it would be more like Sonic the Hedgehog, just like this one is, and as far as I know, very rarely do Sonic fans like modern Sonic games, is my impression from social media. So the sequel also did not do very well.
Well, I'm sure Sonic Breath of the Knuckles is coming someday.
Breath of the Knuckles?
Yeah, like a Breath of the Wild style, but
okay. I thought you were going off like something with knights, but no, you were just, okay, I got it.
Anyway, the overall thing of Knights is evil ruler of Nightopia, Wise Man, wants to take over Nightopia, because the dream world is like Nightopia and Nightmare. And so he's like a nightmare dude, and he wants to take over Nightopia and destroy it. But by doing that, because Nightopia is the dream world, it's also going to destroy the real world. And teens Elliot and Clarice aren't psyched about that. And neither is Knights, who's a creation of Wise Man who has rebelled and now wants to stop this destruction from taking place. Nights into Dreams is on, I gotta call this out, I always do, Wikipedia's greatest games of all time list.
Yeah, people really, really liked it when it came out. Apparently the flight felt really, really good. So they even made a special Saturn 3D controller that was packaged along with Knights that had an analog stick. Ooh. Whoa. And analog triggers, which was apparently very rare for consoles in that time. That was like a new fancy thing on controllers, was the analog, the triggers.
It also appeared to be roughly the size of my head.
Yeah, it's just a big circle. Fun fact, director Steven Spielberg was the first to use the Sega Saturn 3D controller when he came in to try Knights. He visited the Sonic Team studio.
He was the first person outside of the Knights team to play Knights.
Yeah.
Why? Steven Spielberg just like pops up in games history, so like just like a sprinkle of Spielberg here and there. Why isn't he doing that anymore?
I don't know. Maybe he still does. Who knows?
He was the first. Do you think he was the first one to play Breath of the Wild?
I think so. I'm sure he was. You know, they're like, Steven, can you come try our Joy-Cons? And he was like, these are drifty. And Nintendo was like, shut up, Steven.
Do you think he was the first, like, he came in and he played Yakuza 7, he was like, this is okay, but have you ever played an RPG?
I hope so.
I really feel like he's probably just jumping around, like, you know? Like, The Last of Us, if you considered remaking that again? Driving the industry, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
So in the game, what you do is both Elliot and Clarice, there's 7 different levels total in the game, and each of those levels is split into 4 mares, which it really took me a couple minutes to be like, oh, like nightmares.
Yeah.
I was like, what does this have to do? Like, what do horses have to do with this?
Come on, Madelyn, keep up.
I'm having a slow day. I don't know what it is. And in each of those mares, the like levels within the levels, you fly through as fast as you can as knights, gathering like these chips, blue chips, where if you get enough of them, you can free the idea that has been stolen from the child. At the end of those 4 mares, you fight a boss, and that's how you get it back. So it's definitely like it feels a lot like a Sonic game, except that it's sort of 3D and you're flying instead of platforming.
There are also small segments at the beginning of the level where you can wander around on foot in full 3D as the children. But if you take too long in that part, you'll start being chased by an alarm clock. That if it touches you, you'll wake up and you'll have to start over because you have to, go back to your dream.
like, kudos to this game for really kind of capturing, you know, as much as you can on a Saturn generation game, the strangeness of dreams. Like, the anthropomorphic alarm clock, like, absolutely, like, good dream thing. And by good, I mean bad.
Yes.
I do have to point out that I read that this game was influenced by Jung and Freud, which, like, someone please just take those away from game devs. Take those away, particularly, I think, from Japanese game developers.
Take what away?
The works of Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
I mean, it's just, you know, they have very, like, compelling names for things in dreams, right? Is the thing. Like, the shadow. Come on. That's very compelling for a video game.
I won't say it's not. I'll just say, like, please. Surely other people have written about dreams.
But not, like, with compelling stuff like the animus and the anima. Like, that's already video game language, you know? That's the thing. It's that these guys wrote, like, their dream papers like it was, like, a video game. Like, threw out all these video game terms. And so video game developers were like, it's a video game.
So you're trying to say that they would have been video game developers? If
yes. They would have been toxic video game developers, I'm sure.
Oh, no. Oh, man. Well, so Knights was supposed to be kind of like the killer app for the Saturn. It was supposed to be, you know, if Nintendo had Super Mario 64 and PlayStation had Crash Bandicoot, Saturn was supposed to have Knights. And I think, as we talked about on that side quest in about game generations, the Saturn isn't super set up for 3D graphics. Like, there's something about the way that it's set up that makes that a lot less intuitive. So while Knights uses 3D, like, Knights is, like, it's partially 3D, you're still kind of on this 2D track as you fly around. So even though it's sort of a 3D game, they found in testing that doing it truly in 3D, it was too hard for players to move around. The game was too difficult.
I don't know if that's the Saturn's fault or just that flight in 3D where you're, like, collecting things is hard.
Definitely. I don't mean to pin everything on this particular game on the Saturn. However, there is something about the Saturn's architecture is not particularly set up for 3D graphics.
Also, considering that they, you know, are the Sonic team, and Sonic had yet to go 3D, it just kind of makes sense to me that they're like, nah, 2D. We know how to do that, so.
Well, they were apparently sort of skeptical at first. They were like, I don't know, like, can our character sprite be as expressive with polygons as it can with pixels? Which is just funny.
People still talk about that.
I know they do. It's just funny given, like, imagine anyone at a major studio really thinking about that now.
That's fair.
Like, we're still talking about that in the context of, like small games, but I can't imagine anyone at Sega is having the conversation of, like, I don't know, should we do pixels or polygons for this one?
Well, you get, I mean, this is totally off topic, but I think a lot about, like, stuff like Guilty Gear, and Arc Systems fighting games that are 3D but look like have managed to look like they are 2D. And the benefits of making it 3D, but the fact that, like, you in your anime fighting game, generally 3D is less pleasing to look at than 2D. So they've, like, found, like, the in-between between those. But people really praised Knights at the time for how well the graphics were, so I guess the 3D worked out for them even then. You know, looking back at it now, it just kind of looks creepy to me a little bit. Especially the children. Less Knights than the children.
Yeah, Knights is stylized enough that, you know.
I mean, Knights is supposed to look a little creepy in the same way that, like, circus performers. Like, creepy circus performers. Look a little creepy. But, yeah.
Yeah, the kids definitely... They don't look, like, blocky, exactly, to their credit. But they do look a little... Like, you're right to look at them and be like, that's a 7-year-old.
I mean, especially in, like, the fancy cutscenes, to be honest. They look freakier in those than they do in, like, gameplay.
Yeah. Well, Knights was ported to the PS2, although potentially just in Japan, but then released in high definition for PS3, Xbox 360, and Windows. They were giving it out for free during Sega's 60th anniversary, like, big giveaway month last fall. Was that last fall? So who knows if that's the setup for there's going to be more Nights into Dreams someday. But they're
probably not. Is my guess.
I mean, I guess now that the guy made this other game, maybe not. But
he did that. He wasn't involved in the sequel for Nights Yuji Naka. That was just the director doing everything. And Balan Wonderland was for Square Enix, and he left Square Enix afterwards. How voluntary that was is... He made it pretty clear beforehand that if it wasn't a success, Square Enix was like, no, you're not going to make another game. And it wasn't, so...
Oops. Really, the most important thing, the takeaway that everyone should take away from Nights into Dreams is you should make your game a Christmas level.
Yeah.
So they made a Christmas-themed demo spin-off called Christmas Nights, that released in December of 1996. And so, like, the developers have talked about how it's like they're working in the middle of the summer, like listening to Jingle Bells, trying to get this ready for the December launch. And it's just I feel like this is such a... I remember the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game doing this, but I feel like this, like, PlayStation 2 gen of games, like, love to use their internal clocks to do, like, fun little Easter eggs for the game. And so the way Christmas Nights worked was it was just a demo of, like, the spring world, one of the first dream worlds, for 11 months out of the year. And then in December, it transformed, and, like, all the things you were collecting are Christmas baubles, and, like, Knights is dressed up, and everything is, like, there's snow everywhere. It's like, I'd like more games to do that. Dumb stuff like that.
Christmas Nights also had it so that on April Fool's Day you would play as the bad knights, Rila, I think.
Yeah.
In the game as well. I think they just felt like they could do that more because people were less savvy about how to, like, change their internal clocks all the time, maybe.
Oh, I guess that's true. I don't know. I think it's still neat. But you're absolutely right. People would be like, I'm gonna change my clock.
I mean, people do that with just things that work with internal clocks, right? I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Just, like, there's less of an incentive to, like, hide something fun if people are just gonna go looking for it.
You're right. The magic of it is kind of been destroyed by how easy it is to fix your clock now, I guess. But you can hide... I mean, I don't know. Animal Crossing, like, hides stuff behind updates, right? You just, like, wall it off. So it has to really be December.
But that's, like, an update, though. That's not, like,
I know.
In the game.
I feel like sometimes... Well, maybe they don't. I feel like there are some events that get locked behind it has to have actually passed. But maybe not. Maybe I haven't been following Animal Crossing as closely as I once did.
Well, they haven't actually made very many new stuff. So.
You're absolutely right.
I was really thinking about the other day, like, just this Animal Crossing versus the one I remember on DS, and, like, wow, there's so much less content in this one. It's interesting.
Am I just dropping the hot takes here in a totally unrelated episode?
You can't even, like, make snowmen or anything. I was thinking about that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Anyway. Knights also had a system of artificial intelligence called A-Life, where there are all these Knightopians in the level, and it keeps track of their moods. So, like, if you kill them by, like, running into them, Like the level gets like sort of darker and like sadder in aesthetic. Apparently, and it also affected the music engine so that the music would change depending on the Nightopians in the level.
Knights really
But also apparently have them mate with other Nightopians and create hybrids known as super peons. I did not look into that.
Yeah, I saw
weird.
that too, and I was like, I'll just leave that box closed. Knight's really leaning into the collateral damage, like, ideas that we were talking about last week. Like, you have an impact on the civilians in Nightopia. Yeah. You have to be careful.
Yeah, you do. All those loop-de-loopins, Safety first.
Safety first. That's the big message of Knights. There's also something at the end where it's like, maybe it was all a dream.
Well, they, like, look at each other, and then they're, like, in Knights. I don't know. I just think it's they're, like, connecting with each other.
You know that I have to take everything literally, though.
Yeah, I know you do. Anyway, we should move on, but I just wanted to point out that we're very timely and relevant because it was just Knight's 25th anniversary. Yep.
This week.
Yep.
So happy birthday, Nights into Dreams. I don't know if I should hope that you get a resurrection or not. Maybe it's best that you just stay a beloved cult classic from the Sega Saturn era.
I think so.
So now for something completely different.
Yeah.
Umurangi Generation. It's a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
A photography shooter. Shooting photographs, that is. Ayo.
Yeah.
From... Am I supposed to pronounce this studio as Origame? Is that the idea? Or is it Origame?
Well, it's from Tolly Faulkner.
Yes.
Really.
Fair enough. It came out for PC last May. There was some DLC for it that came out in November, and then it came out for Switch in June, which is perfect, because if it had been on just PC, would I have played it? Who knows? I don't even know if it's on Mac. But
I was specifically waiting for it to come out on Switch before getting it, because I wanted to actually play it and not just like play about 10 minutes of it. It'd be like playing on computer sucks and then never go back to it.
Yeah, I'm having enough trouble keeping track of what buttons do what on the Switch.
Yeah.
And if it were on the computer, it would be like W? B? And I would take exactly
WASD does move, Madeline. Come on, you gotta know that much about computer controls.
I know. Can I not set it to be the arrow keys, though?
It can be. It's both. That's the whole point. So you can use either hand.
I was just making a joke at my own expense. Okay.
No.
Anyway, in Umurangi Generation, you play as a Maori photographer, and you're in Tauranga, Aotearoa, which is New Zealand, colonially. And you're a career photographer, and your job is you're taking pictures for a client in various, like, I don't want to call it post, it's like mid-apocalyptic locales.
It's like during a very slow alien invasion, basically.
Is that a spoiler? Because that was not something I had gotten to in my 4 levels of the game, but every review seemed to have no qualms about saying that.
Well, it's the little blue bottles.
I don't know what those are.
They were, like, shooting at them in, like, the 3rd level.
Were they?
Yeah, the one with, like, all the fire and the explosions and stuff.
I don't think there were explosions in the 3rd level. Maybe I'm misremembering.
Well, it's early one where there's, like, body bags and, like, people with guns and stuff. I could have sworn it was the 3rd level. But
okay,
maybe I'm
well,
wrong.
We can argue about this later. Anyway, you're in this mid-apocalyptic thing that, yes, you at some point discover is due to an alien invasion, that the UN is doing an ineffectual job of stopping and or also considering the needs of the people while doing it.
It's worth mentioning again that, like, none of this is presented to you in the game explicitly. It's an entirely environmental storytelling game.
I agree that it's an entirely environmental storytelling game. I would disagree in the context of this game that some of that isn't, like, explicit. Something I was thinking about a lot, so I've played, as I just said, the first 4 levels of the game. I don't think there are more than 10, right? Like, it's...
There are 8 in the base game, and then 4 that are included in the Switch version from the DLC.
Got it. So I'm a third of the way through. Well, sort of. I don't know. The levels seem to be getting bigger as I go. So,
yes.
So maybe I'm a quarter of the way through. But I was thinking a lot about our world building side quest from whenever that was, sometime in 2021. And I like how, like, I feel like a lot of the kind of like on the wall poster stuff in this game, if I saw it in like a more of a standard action adventure game, I'd be like, ooh, that's a little on the nose, isn't it? But here it's like, oh, that's like subtle and fun. I'm learning about the world from the world. And so it's interesting to me, kind of the contrast between that. 'Cause it's like, man, there's like all sorts of like aggressive graffiti on the walls that's pretty like on the nose, like whatever.
If the last year has taught me anything, it's that really on the nose graffiti is very true to life.
I mean, yes, that too.
We tend not to be very subtle with our graffiti messages on walls, in games or in reality.
I guess my point is more, if I saw it in like a standard action adventure game, I'd be like, oh, okay, but like that's a little lazy as a way to convey this. And here I'm like, oh, what sophisticated world building. And so it's just interesting how the different mechanics, like how you engage with the environment or how you're expected to engage with the environment has such a different impact on, you know, even if I was running around through this similar world, but I was punching aliens as I went, even if it looked basically the same, except I was doing some punchy alien stuff, I think I would have a different response to what it looked like than I am when I'm running around just with my camera.
Yeah, what I meant by it doesn't tell you these things explicitly is like the setup. Like, it doesn't tell you like where you are except for like some base identifier of each level. It doesn't tell you who or why you're taking photos. So there's this external information, but that's not like told to you in the game. You just get your photo list and you have to take those photos in the location that you're in.
Why are your friends chilling with you? Like, you're basically Uber Eats photo dude. Why are your friends running around with you too?
Why not? You know?
Fair enough.
What else are they gonna do?
I guess. You know what? I guess that's true. There does not seem to be that much else to do.
Nope.
So I'll like totally roast myself here. It took me like 40 minutes to finish the first level. It was so hard. I almost gave up. I could not find, even though it was super obvious, like, I eventually found it and I was like, oh my god, the Union Jack was on the skateboard the entire time. But I was, like, scanning, I was, like, looking at everything on the wall super closely, running around.
I think someone's wearing a Union Jack, too.
I saw him talk about this in an interview after the fact, too, that one of the characters has a Union Jack on her jacket, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. I looked forever.
Because I think I got it accidentally, like, taking a picture of people in the first level. I was like, it's like, you got the Union Jack. I was like, oh, okay. I guess I did.
Well, that was another embarrassing thing for me, because I kept taking pictures of my 3 friends. It took me forever to realize that I'm also friends with the penguin.
Yeah,
and
Madelyn.
That's why I wasn't getting the points.
Come on. You gotta include your penguin friend.
It should have been obvious, but it wasn't.
I was thinking, I was reading this afterwards, and the last level, I was like, oh, this is Neon Genesis Evangelion. I felt like a tool, like, thinking that to myself. But it is listed as one of the stylistic inspirations. And then I was like, oh, the penguin friend. Is that from Evangelion? I feel like it must be. There's a penguin in Evangelion. He lives in the apartment with the characters.
That's less
He
fun.
has a fridge.
I just wanted a whimsical penguin. I didn't want it to have to be like a capital A anime reference.
Maybe they just like penguins too, but I assume if Evangelion is a stated reference that possibly they were like, here's a penguin.
I just assumed it was because we're in New Zealand and like there are penguins there.
There are penguins in New Zealand?
Aren't there?
Malin, I don't know.
I'm gonna look this up, but I'm pretty sure that it's like south enough. Not that it's like cold in New Zealand or anything, but like, yes, penguins in New Zealand. New Zealand has 3 species of penguin. In fact, according to NewZealand.com, you cannot help but be charmed by these amazing birds that have a character all of their own.
Well, good. See, it's a set of place. It's a cool penguin. It's a pen reference. There you go. I couldn't find the penguin in a couple of levels though when I was trying to take, because it's small and it kind of blends into the environment. So I had to give up on taking a photo of all my friends because I just didn't know where the penguin was.
Nah, you just get your wide-angle lens and you just kind of like shoot for it.
Wait till you get your fisheye lens.
Oh boy.
That one really gets everything in it.
I was so proud of myself. So listeners, if you haven't played, it's a fun game and it's pretty cheap. So you might as well give it a try. So I went back after playing a few levels and getting better at some of the controls. So I was not like throwing my camera out of focus every time I meant to zoom, right?
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I'm dumb. The tutorial asks you at the beginning, like, have you played first-person shooters? And not that anyone was watching me, right? Like, no one was watching me. I was like, yeah, of course I have. Because I didn't want the game to think I was embarrassing. It was like, yeah, it's basically like that. And I was like, oh, great. I play a lot of those, so I know those controls.
I don't think that really has to do with the zoom or focus,
no,
though.
It doesn't.
It's just like
it
the
doesn't.
trigger that's like aim and shoot, basically.
It doesn't. I'm mostly just saying...
It's okay. I was throwing my thing out of focus and zooming when I didn't mean to all the way through the end, so...
Good.
It's fine.
Well, there's no hope for me. But in each level, you have like seven things, right, that you have to take a picture of just to complete the level. And there's a bunch of bonus objectives. One of which is seemingly always to get them in 10 minutes, one of which is to find a bunch of these film canisters that are scattered around, take a picture of your friends, make a certain amount of money. Your photographs are like graded, quote unquote, by composition, color, and
it's generally just like how much stuff is in them.
Yeah, that's what I'm learning too.
Yeah.
And so you get dollars for that, based on that. That's the one thing these two games have in common, is some kind of a grading system. So I'm gonna have to bring that back when we mash up. You get like one new piece of equipment just for finishing the base tasks, however long it takes you, and then you get another new piece for doing all of the extras.
Yeah.
So, you know, knowing myself, I was like, okay, there's no way I'll be able to do all the extras once the worlds start to get to be any size. But the first level is nice and small. And so surely I'll be able to find all the film canisters and, like, do all of this in 10 minutes, no problem. So first of all, that took me forever. It took me forever to find the last film canister. I texted Emma being like, where is it? It's not here. And then I found it. It was by the
Expecting
seagulls.
me to have found all the film canisters in the level.
I don't know. You're good at games.
Okay.
I don't know. I think of you as being better at games than me. How about that?
Okay.
So I did eventually do it, and that unlocked the flash for my camera, which, like, as everyone knows, the flash is key to great photos. But I can't figure out how to make the flash go off. You can, like, put it on, but I can't even figure out how to use it, which is probably for the best. Really. All these super washed out pictures as soon as I can figure out how to do it.
Yeah, you get various different lenses as well as different editing tools as you just complete the basic objectives. The editing tools don't do anything to your grade. It's just so you can have fun with it. No, they don't.
What?
It's just so you can make them look nice, basically.
I've been taking it so seriously. I've been.
I don't think the timer doesn't go while you're doing that either. So
I just thought
feel
if I
free to take it
maximize
seriously.
the color, then I would get more color points.
Well, maybe it looks nice. Save to your Switch. It does automatically save to your Switch library, so that is going to.
You can turn it off.
Oh.
I've discovered that when
fine.
my Switch told me, you have 1,000 screenshots on your Switch. And I was like, do I really? It's like, that's the most. So I went and I deleted some of the, like, pithy Fire Emblem ones that I was like, I'm never going to look at these again. Also, all the ones that are just me accidentally taking a picture of, like, my home screen or the end of a Ring Fit level or something like that, because I hit the button by mistake.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, there's a little checkbox. You can turn it off.
Well, it's fine. There'll be a while going through those.
But we should share some of our best ones, hopefully. And so I'll pull mine off my Switch this week. So I think Great Boyfriend is going to like this one because he loves his Instagram filters.
Yeah.
So if you like Instagram filters, this game is for you.
The only thing that gets you docked in pay, which they introduced to you in the tutorial, but otherwise you just find out if you accidentally get one of these in your photo. But if you get a blue bottle in your photo, which like are these little things that look like blue bottle jellyfish, that start cropping up more and more throughout the levels as you continue, and also start getting bigger and bigger ones cropping up. And I swear it's the third level is like, there's like a war scene and there's like big giant ones that they're shooting at, but whatever. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
The third level has the memorial.
Maybe it's the fourth one then. I don't know. It's an early one, I swear. But anyway, so you get docked some pay if you get one of those in your photo. My thought is, it's like, you want to be, talking about things that are happening, but not necessarily the things that are causing it, right? So you just sort of, even though they're everywhere, everyone just kind of ignores their existence in the level, and seems to wish to continue to ignore their existence based on how they don't like it if you take a photo of them, basically.
I'm wondering if whatever. There's no right answer to this, right? This is just analyzing. Yep. But given that like some of the inspiration behind the game was like this desire to like not look the developers talked about how the inspiration behind the game was the Australian government kind of just ignoring the bushfires in 2020.
Yeah.
And so then, of course, this game comes out in the midst of, Corona in 2020, even though it was mostly not made during that time period, and is, massively relevant.
Yes, apparently the macro DLC is much more about Corona, since that was made during that.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously, it felt super relevant to the time. Just one of those, lucky things where it came out right when, the world that it was painting, was the world. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's something that's kind of generally relevant. It just, we like to talk about tragedies when they happen, but not really ever any other time.
Yeah.
Is what I think about it. So
there's also a lot of Maori culture that's sort of woven into the aesthetics of the game, which I can't think of any other game that does that. Can you?
Nope. The developer is Maori,
right?
So it is taking personal experience there.
No, definitely. So I didn't mean to be it's totally appropriative or anything like that. I didn't mean that in a bad way. I just meant that in a oh, okay,
I just mean that, the video game sphere, especially as you go higher up, is very white So you probably don't see a lot of Maori stuff because there are not a lot of Maori people high up in video games.
Right. The AAA version of this that comes out in a couple of years will be like you taking photos as ancient Greece.
Yes, exactly.
I saw it was interesting to me to see like different reviews think of this as evolutions of different things. Like, obviously a lot of things talked about, photo mode became super prevalent over the course of the past, 5 or 6 years. I guess a little more than that. And now, like, we're seeing all the games that come out with photo mode. Obviously, the other interesting juxtaposition is this game coming out in the same sort of broad time sphere as the new Pokemon Snap. Which, those games are very different. In mechanics, sort of not, but in everything else, 100%.
Yeah.
But also some reviews talking about it more as, like, the kind of natural, well, not natural necessarily, as an evolution of the walking simulator, in that by giving the player a camera, you've now created a little bit more of a gamey reason to be looking around at your surroundings. And we need to retire the words walking simulator, because it just doesn't, we just have to retire it. But I thought that was I thought that was interesting though as well, to be like, I guess sort of what I am actually doing is just like looking at stuff, but they've gamified it enough that it feels more interactive, even though I'm basically doing the same thing.
I mean, I also think it's interesting that it's talked about and, like, about so much and uses the control scheme of first-person shooters, right? Because, like, this is... You are fighting, right? That the camera is, in some ways, kind of the weapon that you have. However insufficient it can be.
Umurangi Generation, though, is almost... how we were talking in last week's America side quest, and obviously this is a game that is set in New Zealand, but, there are a lot of things here that are very relevant to America. We were talking about how, like, something like Spec Ops: The Line, like, to really hit for the people that you would want that to hit, people who are going to, like, quote, learn a lesson from it, you would have to be kind of, like, sneaky about what it's really about.
Mm-hmm.
And while obviously Umurangi Generation is not necessarily targeted at the Call of Duty players, it is have that same mechanic, and it does... It's not, like, sneaky about its politics, right? But it's also not like, I'm gonna whack you over the head with this, with characters giving sermons about anti-fascism, or anything like that.
I read an interview with the developer where he's like, he has, like, just a Twitter alert with, like, Umurangi that he checks sometimes. And he saw someone that was, like, on the final level that tweeted, like, this game's political? And he just, like, was laughing because he doesn't understand how you got that far without, like, realizing that it was.
There's a lot of, like, anti-cop graffiti.
Yeah.
And it's like, I do want to grant that I'm looking at a lot of things in this game and having political reactions to them that maybe you would, like just looking at everything being stamped with property of the United Nations, and, like, all of these soldiers with guns being around all the time, like, I read that as a statement, whereas maybe if your politics run a little bit more to the right, you don't. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't really know how you could, having only played 4 of the levels, I don't really know how you could get this far without it. I mean, the game asks you to photograph the word gamer 7 times.
Yeah.
Can we get clearer than that about, like, what we're doing here? Gaming space for gaming gamers.
Exactly.
3 of them in one shot. Anyway, I had to turn off the motion controls. We're going to talk about the mechanics of the game now. Now we've talked about
I didn't notice it working that much, the motion controls, unless I was like really tilting my Switch.
I must hold mine funny because my cameraman was like totally tilted to the side. And I was like, why is that happening? And then I realized that there were motion controls. Oh, but you probably play it handheld.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that must be it. Yeah.
So you're not like sitting with your Switch at like a 45-degree angle the way that I am, like holding my Joy-Cons. That would do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, I'm really enjoying this game. The 10-minute time limit is basically impossible your first time through, though.
Yeah, I generally see like the bonus objectives as like things to do when you go back like a second time. Like you sort of learn the level, I guess.
Yeah.
And you do all of those different things. Although I've gotten the postcard photo a few times just for funsies. I will say the last level took me forever. Like, it felt like on the other levels, there are, like, sometimes, like, a few different places you could take the photo, or, like, it was obvious where it was. But in the last one, it's like, wow, you have to get really specific angles for this, huh? So, look forward to that.
Oh, great. I'm ready.
Yeah.
So shall we try to mash up these two games?
Sure. Let's do it.
Here's the problem. My first mashup idea for this game was like, oh, you're like on rails and you should take photos as you go and you get graded on it.
A new
what
Pokemon
game is that?
Snap.
Yeah. Kind of bright. So that's out.
But the Pokemon are anti-fascist.
You're right. Squirtle has a cab on his shell.
No, can't do that.
Maybe it's that, but it's in that. You remember that like last month or whatever when like that dark Pokemon as Slaves game went kind of viral?
Oh yeah.
It's that Snap.
Yeah. That works. That works pretty well, to be honest. Man, what was that game called? I don't know anymore. But yeah, there was like this viral, for people who didn't see it, there's like this viral like advertisement for like a Pokemon like, and it just looked normal for like the first 30 seconds. And then you've got a gun, and then you're using the sheep as a shield while you shoot your gun. And then you've got like the little Pikachus like working in the factory making guns. And stuff like that.
Okay.
Couldn't tell. It was very hard to tell like how serious you were supposed to take it. Also.
Yeah, like a crappy future. I'm censoring the description of Umurangi here for our non-explicit podcast. Like a crappy future Pokemon Snap. That doesn't really have anything to do with Dreams though, except that it's on rails, and you can fly.
Maybe there could be like some supernaturally dream logic to it.
Well, I'm thinking like, you know, this it's like Haunter's Nightmare.
Sure. Yeah.
But there shouldn't be Pokemon. We have to not do this.
Legally distinct hunters. Pokemon Snap.
Oh no. It's like photo mode in Luigi's Mansion on rails.
That doesn't have anything. I don't think that works.
Ghosties. I don't know. Whatever. You're right. It doesn't work. Okay, so it has to have something to do with dreams. It probably has to involve photography.
Yes, I think so.
And it has to be a political. Look, Dreams is political too.
You mean Knights?
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Knights is political too, in that Knights has no gender. So that's enough to be political.
Fair enough. You go into like dream worlds of like you know, like really idealized states of mind, right? Like I'm thinking of like the American Dream from last week, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But you can find like a bunch of stuff from maybe you do research into different cultures, so you can do a lot of them. Or
so
their
like
equivalents.
Yeah.
But you go in with like your photo in this dream sort of world, and you have to take photos of like
Toxic masculinity. Yeah, got
yes. Maybe not not quite like that, but
no, I love that. I mean. It's like a swamp monster. Like
a swamp monster.
The toxic masculinity will be like it'll be like a swamp, like because purple is poison, right? Come on. It's like a man rising from the swamp being like, smile, sweetie, and that's the picture.
Okay. That feels a little obvious to take the picture of, but I like where you're going here.
Can we do it? I'd like to see, one of the reviews was talking about another game that's coming out where you might have like video capture. I'd like it, can it be like Instagram Reels? Can we a TikTok instead of photos?
I mean, sure.
No, let's just keep it photo. Let's keep it photos. Let's keep it simple.
It doesn't really change the mechanics of it to make it like something different. So
yeah,
it can be whatever you want. But I just meant like you have to find like the little things that are like weird in it or eerie or whatever.
Yeah,
and that's what you have to take the photos of.
Yeah, so our on the nose thing is making them take the photos of the things that are aggressive political satire.
Yes.
I like it. King George Washington.
You could do it subtly, like, like Umurangi just has you be like, take a photo of like, 5 blocks in a piece of wood. And that's like one of your assignments.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like, okay, if we tell them to take a picture of like 4 flags, like, make sure that the like shot like includes something a little bit creepy in it. Mm-hmm. So it's less like explicitly telling them to do that and just making sure that there is like this sort of weirdness to it. I
like it. And I like the idea of, I do wonder how much these like mythological, I don't know what I'm trying to say. This like exaggeration of the American dream, for instance, like how different is that gonna look? And this is probably just a world culture question. Like, how different is the exaggeration of the American dream gonna look than like the, I don't know, Kenyan dream, Brazilian dream?
I don't know. I haven't taken anything to do with modern culture since AP Gov senior year. So
we'd have to get some good cultural consultants.
Well, duh.
Look, it's probably not a duh for some studios, so I'm just gonna throw it out there that was a budget line for that.
Sure. Or maybe it's like reverse Fatal Frame.
For those of us who don't know Fatal Frame very well, explain what that is.
It's a photography game where you take photos of ghosts to keep them from attacking you. So you like take pictures of really nice things and then they like turn creepy from your camera's power.
Oh, that's interesting. If there's like in your editing, like sometimes you can expose it so that the secret message or the secret ghost appears.
Yeah.
I dig that. That's fun. No one will buy this.
What are you talking about? Everybody buys everything.
You're right, my bad. Everybody buys everything. You're totally right. Probably wouldn't sell as well as Dark Pokemon Snap, but that's okay.
Yeah. That'll be our next. This will be our side project. That'll be our main project.
Right.
Since we can sort of develop them concurrently, but one's sort of more marketable,
Nights into Dreams originally had a multiplayer fight thing. Can we have a take bad photos of the other person fight mode?
Sure. Why not?
Perfect.
That feels like a fun indie game that somebody's making.
If you're out there making take bad
photos of your friends.
I'll play it. I will. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
if you enjoyed the show, you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. I guess we'll try to share some of our Umurangi generation shots this week. I'll pull those off my Switch to send to Emma so that she can tweet about them. So don't miss those. Let's see. You should also check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games that are in the hat that Emma's about to pull our next set of games from, and read our blog featuring long-running series, Clickbait Boyfriend, and Split Screen. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, if you like the show, you should subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Cast. Anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find Talk This. Next week is a side quest chosen by Emma. Any hints?
Nope.
So tune in for a surprise. But in 2 weeks, what games will we be chatting about?
For our old game, we will be talking about Drakengard.
Cool.
And for our new game, we will be talking about Before Your Eyes.
Dope.
So look forward to that.
It's gonna be a great episode.
That's gonna be a weird mashup. So, oh dear.
So, oh dearie dearie do.
Oh dearie dearie do. Well, Madelyn, do you want to sign us off?
Yeah. This week, I hope that none of your photos come out overexposed or with ghosts that you didn't know were there.